Verses 1 to 6. We commonly say, new lords, new laws, new customs, but here was a new governor, and yet Paul had the same treatment from him that he had from the former, and no better. Festus, like Felix, is not so just to him as he should have been, for he does not release him, and yet not so unjust to him as the Jews would have had him to be, for he will not condemn him to die, nor expose him to their rage. Here is the pressing application which the high priest and other Jews used with the governor to persuade him to abandon Paul, for to send him to Jerusalem was in effect to abandon him. See how speedy they were in their applications to Festus concerning Paul. As soon as ever he had come into the province, and had taken possession of the government, into which, probably, he was installed at Caesarea, within 3 days he went up to Jerusalem, to show himself there, and presently the priests were upon him to proceed against Paul. He stayed 3 days at Caesarea, where Paul was a prisoner, and we do not find that in that time Paul made any application to him to release him, though, no doubt, he could have made good friends, that he might hope to have prevailed by, but as soon as ever he comes up to Jerusalem the priests are in all haste to make an interest with him against Paul. See how restless a thing malice is. Paul more patiently bears the lengthening out of his imprisonment than his enemies do the delay of his prosecution even to the death. See how spiteful they were in their application. They informed the governor against Paul, v2, before he was brought upon a fair trial, that so they might, if possible, prejudge the cause with the governor, and make him a party who was to be the judge. But this artifice, though base enough, they could not confide in, for the governor would be sure to hear him himself, and then all their informations against him would fall to the ground, and therefore they form another project much more base, and that is to assassinate Paul before he came upon his trial. These inhuman hellish methods, which all the world profess at least to abhor, have these persecutors recourse to gratify their malice against the gospel of Christ, and this too under colour of zeal for Moses. Tantum religio potuit suaderum maleriuc was their dire religious zeal. See how specious the pretence was. Now that the governor was himself at Jerusalem they desired he would send for Paul thither, and try him there, which would save the prosecutors a great deal of labour, and looked most reasonable, because he was charged with having profaned the temple at Jerusalem, and it is usual for criminals to be tried in the court where the fact was committed, but that which they designed was to waylay him as he was brought up, and to murder him upon the road, supposing that he would not be brought up under so strong a guard as he was sent down with, or that the officers that were to bring him up might be bribed to give them an opportunity for their wickedness. It is said, they desired favour against Paul. The business of prosecutors is to demand justice against one that they suppose to be a criminal, and, if he be not proved so, it is as much justice to acquit him as it is to condemn him if he be. But to desire favour against a prisoner, and from the judge too, who ought to be of counsel for him, is a very impudent thing. The favour ought to be for the prisoner, in favorum vita o favour his life, but here they desire it against him. They will take it as a favour if the governor will but condemn Paul, though they can prove no crime upon him. The governor's resolution that Paul shall take his trial at Caesarea, where he now is, v4, 5. See how he manages the prosecutors. He will not do them the kindness to send for him to Jerusalem, no, he gave orders that Paul should be kept at Caesarea. It does not appear that he had any suspicion, much less any certain information, of their bloody design to murder him by the way, as the chief priests had when he sent him to Caesarea, ch. 2330, but perhaps he was not willing so far to oblige the high priest and his party, or he would maintain the honour of his court at Caesarea and require their attendance there, or he was not willing to be at the trouble or charge of bringing Paul up. Whatever was his reason for refusing it, God made use of it as a means of preserving Paul out of the hands of his enemies. Perhaps now they were more careful to keep their conspiracy secret than they had been before, that the discovery of it might not be now, as it was then, the defeat of it. But though God does not, as then, bring it to light, yet he finds another way, as effectual, to bring it to naught, by inclining the heart of the governor, for some other reasons, not to remove Paul to Jerusalem. God is not tied to one method, in working out salvation for his people. He can suffer the designs against them to be concealed, and yet not suffer them to be accomplished, and can make even the carnal policies of great men to serve his gracious purposes. Yet he will do them the justice to hear what they have to say against Paul, if they will go down to Caesarea, and appear against him there. Let those among you who are able in body and purse for such a journey, or able in mind and tongue to manage the prosecution, let those among you who are fit to be managers, go down with me, and accuse this man, or those who are competent witnesses, who are able to prove anything criminal upon him, let them go and give in their evidence, if there be any such wickedness in him as you charge upon him. Festus will not take it for granted, as they desire he should, that there is wickedness in him, till it is proved upon him, and he has been heard in his own defense, but, if he be guilty, it lies upon them to prove him so.